I want to actually hold things again. So I've been buying DVDs and I want to have that physical media because somebody made a great point. They're like, assuming I paid $12 a month for Spotify for the past 12 years, that's just under $1,800 I spent on music streaming. And how much media of that do I still own to this day is zero.
Yeah.
So you basically, I mean, you got that experience, but you at the end of the day, you leave with nothing.
This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Grounded in Maine podcast is an open conversation about how we show up for the world. I started this podcast out of a desire to learn new ways to be sustainable because the word sustainability is big. It can be overwhelming, and I just wanted to learn, different ways to try to be part of the solution and not feel like it's too late. So I'm talking to people who are doing different things and learning so much. I hope you are too. Hi there. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy, and my guest today is Chad Thompson, who I met at the SOVA Rise Entrepreneur Summit in October. I went to Chad's talk, not knowing that it was going to end up like this. I just thought what he was talking about was really interesting. So, Chad, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad what I had to say resonated and it helps build my self-confidence a little bit.
Oh, yay. Awesome. So you were talking about, you were talking about business planning.
All kinds of things.
You were talking about all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because what I got out of it, and we were just talking about this, what I remembered most was the talk about the business planning. Because what you said made me really think. Like I heard it in my head and I'm like, yeah, okay. But then like I'm still thinking about it 2 months later and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay.
Like, okay, I get it. Yeah.
What Chad was talking about was that when you have to fill out a business plan for anything, for business, funding, grants, whatever, the business plan isn't necessarily for the other person. And that's so if you can go into a little bit more detail about that, Chad, just for a couple minutes if you want.
Of course. So essentially, if you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, or you're about to be one, you've probably heard of a business plan or the idea of one being thrown around. And most of us think of it as just this like very extensive document that the banks want us to write just so we can get money. You spend hours and hours writing all these mundane details, and in your head, you're like, I already know that. Like, why do I need to put this onto paper? But if you start like shifting the way you think about it, because it's one of those things you're going to have to do it anyhow, and you start thinking that it's like a roadmap, and it's a very detailed document for you to use. So it really gets you thinking about all the different areas of your business, all the different possibilities. And when you look at it that way, as like that it's going to be an asset or a resource for you, then it's like, oh, maybe it's not so mundane anymore. Maybe this is like a good thing I should do. And it took me a long time to realize that. I've worked many businesses throughout the years, and some have done okay, most have failed. But really only two had a business plan, and one is the bookstore that we'll be talking more about today. But all the others that didn't succeed was because I didn't have a plan, because I never sat down and wrote it because it was all up here. And then, of course, I like to tell people when I'm talking about journaling that your brain is a great place for processing information, but it's a terrible place to store it. So
Yes.
yeah, that's why I highly recommend everybody to, well, you can't see it, it's invisible, but I'm holding a journal to write things down or put it on a computer because the more you get out of here and onto something else,
Yep.
the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to take a really good look because Chad has a used bookstore, which he is sitting in, and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, the lights are so beautiful, and just all the books. And I was telling Chad earlier that I was telling my friend Emily that I was going to be talking to Chad, and he has a small used bookstore, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for that." So Emily, if you're listening, go to YouTube and watch this because you're going to really enjoy that. But so your bookstore is called the Bookseller and like cellar like basement, not like Seller.
Correct. Yeah, and so the bookseller is a joint venture between my wife and I. So we basically play on each other's like strong points and weak points. So I do all the things that she doesn't like to do. She does all the things that I don't like to do. So it works perfectly. But the name bookseller actually came from multiple reasons. One, we were just trying to think of a really cool name that just felt fun and whimsical and warm and cozy. But at the time, we are located inside of a shared space with a coffee shop, but there also used to be a cider company in there and they sold wine. So I was like, oh, so like a little wine cellar, the bookseller. And then that's kind of how the name clicked and came to be.
Clever.
Um, they have since moved out of the space, but the coffee shop has created a sidebar that still serves wine. So we can still play off of that cellar really well.
Fun. Oh my gosh. And so, all right. So we're talking about sustainable businesses, and so your business plan conversation and the bookseller obviously work together. But I also just want to mention really quickly, and we can get back to we can get back to whatever. But you also have a YouTube channel, and you are YouTubing about journaling.
Primarily, yes. Yep.
Okay, and more?
So I'm trying to get myself not like locked into the journaling niche, but it
Gotcha.
appears that that's what I've done. So I try to throw in like little tidbits about like life lessons and learnings that are relative to journaling. So it all goes back to journaling,
Okay.
basically.
All right. So it's like a lifestyle YouTube,
Yeah,
heavy
in a
on
way.
journaling.
Yeah, like so you can learn a lot of things about like clarity and planning, productivity, but it all resorts back to writing things down or typing things. So.
Hmm. Okay. The bookseller. Okay. The bookseller is a huge success. You clearly used a business plan for that.
Yep, and we tweak it as we go along. So obviously, your plan also, and I guess I'll go back to the plan just really briefly.
Sure.
It's like it's not something that has to be set in stone. Like essentially, it's a foundation, and I think for a business plan to be successful, it should be something that can be adaptable because lots of things change. The climate changes, the economy changes,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. There's lots of change. So you don't want to write your plans and have your business in a set way. So, like, for example, when we first opened the business, we were a used bookstore, 100% used books. We didn't want to do any new books, very limited, if any, retail merch, and everything had to be secondhand around. Like, couldn't buy new furniture. And I'll kind of lean into that in a little bit. But we since have adapted for the market for various reasons, and we haven't put ourselves in that like specific basket. One example of that is when we first opened up everything in the shop, and I'm like looking off to a picture so I can kind of see, but like our picture frames, our bookshelves, everything was secondhand repurposed. And that's still the biggest part of our whole business is to repurpose as much things as possible. That's the whole reason it's used books versus new books. Now, since then, we've broken some of our rules because that's what you're supposed to do to support local authors. There's not really a vast circulation of used books for them. So, to help them out, we buy their books, which are traditionally new. And then we encourage people that buy the new books from us that once they're done, to maybe pass them off to somebody else. They can donate them back to the shop or do something with them just so that way they're recirculating.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that's
Mhm.
I think that's very reasonable. Those are reasonable
Yeah,
changes to make. I mean, you want to support your local authors. They need someone to hype them up and eventually they'll be used.
exactly. That's the hope, at least.
Yeah. And so, for this bookstore, for the bookseller, my big question is, so you're selling used books, but you said that this is like thriving. And so it's not, it might not be expected to be
Mhm.
something that thrives. I've been to many used bookstores and they're very, very quiet. So what do you think is different? Like what makes it so successful?
I think there's a variety of reasons. At its core, I think one is because we provide a product that's very affordable. So over the past year, there's been a lot of uncertainty of various things from inflation. Then you think about the price of like importing things. You think about we were in an election year cycle. All those things come into play, whether we think about it or not. So as the cost of things have went up, the cost of our things have either stayed the same or even went down in a lot of cases. Because of some of what we have is donations, or we're able to buy from other organizations as like fundraisers and stuff, that helps us to be able to keep our costs low because we want the thing we really want is to make literacy affordable. And the fact that there was no other bookstore in our community, I mean, the closest bookstore to us was 20 minutes down the road, and it was a Books a Million. And knock on wood, hopefully they don't, Books a Million isn't in the used book business. So, and one thing we've heard from a lot of our customers, it's really cool, is like kids will come in and find like Captain Underpants or Diary of a Wimpy Kid and be like, wow, I can get like four of these for the cost of one new one at Books a Million. So now instead of leaving with one book, they're leaving with like a whole set or a whole series in some cases because we can do that. So it's a really neat concept. And then like my wife and I, we're both huge used book lovers. So anytime we're on vacation or traveling, we're always going to used bookstores, and we did well before we even started our business because that's where we like to shop. So we essentially tried to create the same experience that
Hmm.
we both enjoyed together to give that back to the community that we're in. So I think that's one reason is we have affordable pricing.
Hmm.
Another reason is it seems like in this world of digital confusion that we're all in, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence and people are just tired of subscription based things, people are starting to look to have like real physical items again. I know me, I canceled my Spotify subscription. I'm buying vinyl records, I'm buying CDs, which people have corrected me that is actually digital media, not physical or analog. It doesn't matter. But I want to actually hold things again. So I've been buying DVDs and I want to have that physical media because somebody made a great point. They're like, assuming I paid $12 a month for Spotify for the past 12 years, that's just under $1,800 I spent on music streaming. And how much media of that do I still own to this day is zero.
Yeah.
So you basically, I mean, you got that experience, but you at the end of the day, you leave with nothing.
Hmm.
So we think about stuff like that, and I think those trends are helping. And then the other big thing, and we'll probably talk mostly about, is the community we've been building.
Hmm.
So we have worked really hard to build a strong community around writers, readers, poets, and just anybody that enjoys literacy. So we do free events like open mic poetry nights, where if you have your own poetry and you want to come and read, we do that every other month. That's a big hit. We have people coming from like an hour and a half away
Oh my God.
because the communities they're from have nothing like that,
Yeah.
and they just want to share their art. We do a silent book club, which is also a free event. So, if you don't like a certain genre, you don't have to feel left out of being a part of a book club. You bring whatever book you're reading, everybody discusses for like 10 or 15 minutes, and the rest of the time you're there, everybody just reads quietly together because I don't know how it is for everybody's home life, but sometimes it can be loud, it can be distracting. So having a dedicated place to go and know that it's going to be quiet and be able to read a book might be your only opportunity to read. So that's a really cool thing. And then we have our writing classes where we have published authors come in and teach aspiring authors, how to get better at their craft, how to publish, how to, navigate the world of becoming an author. So we have a wide collective mix of things that we're trying to offer that community and just keep a safe, friendly environment for whoever wants to come and share a love for literacy, basically.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I mean, you're just really hooking these people up with the environment that they ultimately want to be in, that they're not able to create in where they are. I love that. And so people are coming and you're creating the community and they're coming, like if you build it, they'll come,
Mhm.
which is really cool. And that's like everyone's dream, I would think, you know.
Yeah, and we've been doing this for I guess about 2.5 years now. It'll be 3 years in May of 2026. And I'll say that, I don't want everybody to think that we've just been like insanely successful and it all came super easily because there's been a lot of strategy behind it too. My background is in marketing and things of that nature. I've worked with tons of small businesses over the years. So one thing that also helps us, we have a great partnership with the coffee shop that we're located in. So my wife and I both work full-time jobs, so we can't always be there. So we have an agreement worked out with the coffee shop where they'll help us monitor the store in times of our absence. So like people can check out with our products through the coffee shop,
Oh,
and
that's
then
cool.
we just kind of will pay like essentially like an administrative fee to the coffee shop at the end of the month just to cover um, that little bit of labor. But we still go in and do all the work as far as decor. We hold all the special events. So we're doing all that heavy lifting. It's just sometimes the day-to-day operations are managed elsewhere. So that's something that has greatly helped to our success is that we haven't had to have all this extra overhead of like paying us to be in there because that's the goal and
Yeah.
we're getting there, but we had to get other things in place first. So we wanted to make sure that we were debt free.
Mhm.
So we've achieved that. The what little bit of loans we got in the start to fund the store, that's all been paid off. We have money in our savings, and then we're operating at a positive net every month. So that was the first like phase we wanted to get to. So now that we've achieved that phase, or page is what I was thinking in my head.
Yep.
The next page or phase of this was to start scaling. So now we're in that process where we're trying to scale up. One of the things that's hard for us, though, you can see the whole space behind me. We're only about 300 to 400 square foot. So we don't have a lot of room to add additional product. And we have a lot of additional product, tons of books ready to be bought by somebody and enjoyed time and time again. But so we need to expand in some way. And then after that would be phase three, where hopefully my wife actually gets to go in there first as a full time position for her. Because that's kind of like her dream is just to be able to continue growing it. I mean, it's essentially this business has become, in some ways, our child in a way. And I agree with that a lot. Like there was another small business owner. He owns a one man marketing business in Maryland. And I asked him one time, I'm like, what would you say makes your business successful? And he was like, do you have kids? And I was like, well, I got a dog. And he's like, okay, that works. How do you keep a dog alive? And I'm like, I mean, feed and water it. And he's like, exactly. If you have a business, the way you keep it thriving and alive is you feed it and you water it. Once you stop either one of those things, the business dies. So, and we feed and water ours through just listening to our audience and growing and evolving and expanding and just being there for our community.
Yeah, like offering what they're looking for. That's
Hmm.
that's really wise, actually.
Yeah.
But and you don't charge for the events that you put on, or
Certain events.
some
So
some of them?
our writing classes we do charge because we pay the author that teaches those, but the open mic poetry nights, it's free to everybody. And the thought process is from my marketing background is if I offer free events, it gets people inside. It gets new people learning about us. So ultimately, hopefully they'll come back and support. But I also believe in what I call the 80/20 rule. I'll probably write a book on it and it'll become my whole livelihood someday. But I believe that you should be always giving like 80% for free, and then that other 20% makes everything up. And I'll elaborate a little bit because a lot of people are probably like, what do you mean? You just giving away free books all the time? But the more free offerings that I can give to people, that's where you really are building relationships and you can build the community, you can build the trust. And then at that point, because everybody feels like they've got so much value, whether it's through education or entertainment
They want to
or
support
just
you back.
they want to support back. And that's what has happened. And we have people come in and, like when we're setting up for a really big event, like our adult book fairs, that requires like hours of work. And we have people that come in that are just regular customers, but well, I don't want to say that. They're more than that now. We have their phone numbers, we text them. My wife goes and hangs out with them sometimes. So, but they'll come in and help us and they don't want anything in return other than just to be a part of it because they've been there from the beginning and watched everything grow and they've been a part of that process. So it's like the bookstore is partially theirs too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I try to encourage other business owners, like especially if they're like, man, my business is really struggling. What can I do to help? And I'm like, well, what do you do for your community? It's kind of like that old I don't remember who said it. It's like ask not what you can do for your government can do for you, but the other way around or whatever. But it's like, what can you do for your community, not necessarily what can your customer do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and I think that's what's helped us so much is like, of course, we understand we got to make money, but that's not the reason we started it. We started it because my wife and I both have a shared love for literacy, and we wanted to share that with our community
Yeah.
because we hadn't had that in 15, 20 years.
Right. Oh gosh. I love that so much. I just think that I think your 80/20 rule is brilliant because of exactly what you're getting people in the door, you're building relationships and you're building trust with them, and because they're like these people are doing all these things for us, like the least we can do is, buy a few books or, hang out and take part and maybe help every so often. And then, it's like it's all reciprocal. So reciprocal.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and it makes it fun because you're all, looking out for each other.
Yeah, and I think about it like so last weekend my wife and I were doing all this shopping for the holidays and whatnot. And I'm a musician too. I play guitar.
Of course you are.
And yeah, right. You got to try everything. So I've been doing that since I was in like the eighth grade. I'm not good at it, but it's fun. I like to do that. So we went to two guitar shops looking for very specific items for some family members who are a lot better at music than I. But we went into a major guitar store. I won't say their name, but nobody ever came to ask me for help. In fact, when I went to check out, it was like I was like, "Ugh, really?" And they're
Right.
like, "I'll
I'm
get your
over it
email
now.
address. Do you want to sign up for this?" Like, there was no like fun interaction. It was at the point where I was like, "Well, I don't know, just take this stuff back. I don't even want to buy it from you now." But then we went to a local guitar shop because we try to be mindful of where we shop from and shop at other local places. And I couldn't get out of this store because me and the guy at the front counter were like telling all these stories, making all these connections, and find out that like his family grew up next to my family, and that like I worked at a place that was like his favorite place to go when he was a kid, and he's only like a few years older than me, so we probably crossed paths at some point. And then I left that store and I told my wife, I'm like, the next guitar I buy, I'm buying it from there.
Yep.
Like once I figure out which one it is, that's where I'm going to go. And it's because he took the time to build a relationship and it was genuine. It wasn't like you just, you're putting on that front. I've worked for major retailers before, and when customers came in the door, there was one that I worked for. I did care because it was electronics and it was something that I really loved. But for the most part, I didn't care. I was just saying, "Hey, how are you?" because that's what I was supposed to do. But the thing at the store that we're in now, we do care because this is something that my wife and I love and we're passionate about, and we love to share that passion with other people. So,
Oh man, that's so good. And so I think that I mean, community it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I know that, that's what you're going for. And I think that, I wonder if all these people were really as passionate about it as you were before they built a relationship with you. That would be really interesting to know. Not that it matters, but it would be, if they're like, "Oh, there's a free event, we might as well go," and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, these people are so nice." And
Yeah.
what a great environment. Like this is just beautiful.
I feel like that's probably how it is a lot of times. People are like, "Oh, this looks cool. Let's go." And some people have even told us that. But one of the times, like, I'm not like the most emotional person on the planet. I think years of just like stuff happening in life like thickened me up to the point where I'm just like, I don't know how to experience emotions. But I remember we were doing our first adult book fair, which is like our take on the Scholastic book fair, but we call it the adult book fair because there's alcoholic beverages and we play like 90s music, but it's not like the kinds where it skips when they say bad words. You actually hear them. So we're like, hey, just to let everybody know, this is adult centric. Your kids are welcome, but just letting you know, don't get offended at language or drinks.
Right.
So I had COVID and I was still like, I wasn't like contagious, but I was still kind of like at the tail end and I felt awful. So we put this event on Facebook and just created a Facebook event. We did nothing else. There's no posters, there's no paid advertising. And at first it was really slow at getting people to say they were going to come to the event. And then I remember I was walking my dog around the park one day and my wife called and she's like, "Have you seen how many people are saying they're going to come to our event?" I'm like, "No, I haven't really checked it. Last I looked, there's like what, 10?" She's like, "It's at 300." And I was like,
What?
"Oh, what happened?" And we just watched it over the
300
next
right
few
there?
days. Yeah, like 300 were saying they're coming to this event and we're like, "What is going on?"
How do
So
we do that?
kept it just kept snowballing. And by the day of the event, we were expecting upwards of like 4,000 people. And we're like, how? In this little space behind me here. So we're in total panic mode. And I was working for the town that our bookstore's in at the time in the tourism office. And I was at a special events meeting and I was like, hey, y'all, by the way, we're having, and this like the police chief is there, the
Oh, good.
fire chief, the town manager, everybody. And I was like, y'all, there could possibly be 4,000 people coming to our store. And, our town only has 8,000 people in it. Like half the population could be showing up to my event. And they're like, not that many people's not going to come. At least six to 700 did show up. And they were literally lined up through our little bookstore, through the big event space, through the coffee shop, outside, down the street,
Awesome.
and around the block. Um, it was crazy. And I'll never forget this person came up to us and said they were so thankful we did the event because when they were a kid, their family couldn't afford to send them to the book fair
Yeah.
and they never got to experience it. So as an adult, they finally got to experience a book fair. And I mean, we had all the things like the pens, the pencils, everything you would remember from a Scholastic
Little
book fair.
clicky
We
pens
had
with
it.
the colors.
Yeah, like I've even got mine over here somewhere, but that was so cool to hear that because that wasn't even something we thought about. We
Yeah.
didn't think the fact that there was people that didn't get to experience it and now they were.
Wow.
And then just all kinds of people just wanted to experience the nostalgia and that's ultimately why it snowballed because it hit the right people at the right time. I don't know how. We've not been able to recreate that craziness again. We still do the book fair. We do it twice a year. We do one in the spring, which is traditional Scholastic, and then we do a themed one. This year we did a spooky themed one, and it was a huge hit. Next year it'll be a different genre. I don't know if I'm allowed to say yet, but doing things like that is really cool because what we're doing at that point, and this is probably the biggest piece of advice I would give to any business owner, if it's relevant, is instead of pushing your cash register on your customers and just saying, buy things from me. Our book fair was the single best sales day we had. In fact, we made like 2 months, maybe 3 months worth of sales at the time in one day. And not even just one day. The book fair was only a 3 hour event.
Wow.
We made those sales in like 3 hours. And the reason is because we created an experience.
Hmm.
We weren't pushing like crazy sales. Like we didn't even talk about buying anything. All we did was hype up all the cool stuff. Like we teased the music.
Yeah.
we would tease some of the products that were going to be there without saying to buy them. And all we had to do was show it to everybody, and then they just wanted it. And then they come and they have these themed book drinks, and there's this music playing, and they're hanging out with their friends, and they go through the line just like you would have when you were a kid. And it's just, we created that nostalgia, and that's why it worked.
Mhm.
So that would be my biggest thing to anybody is create an experience. And that's what we ultimately try to do is we just create things that we like and hope that there's other people out there that like them too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, and so my friend Emily just did an episode, or no, yep, she just did an episode where she was saying, experiment with things. So,
Yeah.
if the 90s theme doesn't work, try 80s or, try some other theme that, and see what clicks. Like it wouldn't hurt, and you're just learning about your community in that in those experiments.
Yeah. Yeah. Experiment all the time, and trial and error are like your best friend, and failures are your best friend because if you do something, actually, there was a short little video clip I was watching earlier today, and I can't remember who it was. He's a great actor. It'll come to me, but he basically is at this college graduation, and he's basically saying that if you don't experience failure, then you're not living life. And I would agree with that because, but I might tweak it. I would say if you're not experiencing failure, you're not taking risks. And calculated risks or strategic risk, I think, are good things. I don't think you should like chance something extreme, like when our parents were like, if your
Like
friends told you
betting
to
your
jump off a
house on
bridge.
something.
Yeah, yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. But I might bet a flashlight. Like I'll bet you this flashlight on my desk that I can do XYZ, something like that. It's not that bad. But you learn from the failures and the mistakes so much. And I don't necessarily view like, let's say I make a video on my YouTube channel. I did recently. I made one that I was very proud of. It came out like a day ago, and it's not getting the views. It's like ranked 10 out of 10 for the worst viewed videos that I've put out in the past like couple of months. But that doesn't mean it's a bad video. It just means that, hmm, maybe I don't make that kind of content. My audience isn't really receptive to that, or maybe the YouTube algorithm doesn't understand it. It's not that I did bad. It's just didn't work. But end of the day, just make what works.
Or maybe it's
And
too soon.
yeah,
I don't do a lot of searches while I'm working.
yeah,
I try
yeah.
not to. More happens
So
on the
yeah,
weekends for sure.
exactly. And that's what we do with the bookstore. I mean, we've had open mic poetry nights where we've had 30 people there to read, and we've had them where two people show up to read. So even though it's a success the first time doesn't mean it's always going to be one. So what we learned from the poetry nights, for example, was we were doing them too frequently. So now we only do them every other month. And when you spread it out that far, it gives people a more of a yearning to keep coming back. Whereas Silent Book Club, we do that monthly, and the writing classes we do monthly, and those work on a month to month. In fact, Silent Book Club could probably become twice a month. So there's different little learnings like that you can kind of figure out. Because like, what's it going to hurt to have an extra event that costs you no money and then nobody shows up? Other than okay, that didn't work. We're not going to do that
We're
again.
going to bed early.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's always worth experimenting and trying out different things.
Wow. I love that. I mean, I think that, so many things are like templated,
Mhm.
like this works for me, this is going to work for everybody. And it's just not necessarily the case. You have to, read the room really. And
Yeah.
I think it sounds like you're doing a really good job of that. Like, just really, I mean, do you actually ask people or do you just go by, um, who shows up and who doesn't show up?
Yeah, there's a variety of things. We do occasionally some surveys and kind of get a feel for what people think. This part's probably going to sound awful, but so we also have surveillance cameras in our bookstore, just to make sure that nobody's taking anything, which has happened. Um, but we also can sometimes hear feedback directly, even when we're in the shop. Sometimes people
Oh.
might be in the corner and they might be whispering, and we're in there and we're like, we can still hear you. Uh, and we take that feedback. There's some people that, like, for example, there's some people that just don't understand used books, and they look in our store, and one of the first questions they'll ask us is, are they all used books? And we're like, I mean, mostly we've got a few new ones, but yeah, we're a used bookstore. Oh, well, have a good day. And then they just leave.
Yeah.
And we've learned, at first it was kind of disheartening when stuff like that would happen, but then we just learned they're not our target demographic. And that's what I say in lots of areas of life. That's not my target demographic. And I even find myself saying that when I go to other things that I don't enjoy. It's not that it was a bad thing that I went to. It's just I'm not their target demographic. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's just the quicker you can learn who your audience is and cater to those people, the quicker you'll see like the better results that you want.
Hmm. Wow. I I love that so much. I feel like you guys have created this environment that is just so welcoming and would be so well received in so many areas. And so if you guys are in Abington, is that where
Yeah.
Abington, Virginia, which is the little corner area, right?
Yeah, so we are located on I-81. So we're about 20 minutes from the Virginia-Tennessee line near Bristol. Abingdon is right off of the interstate, so exit 17 is how you would get to us. We're right in downtown. So it's great. Like you're probably going to pass Abingdon if you're on your way to Atlanta or Nashville, or if you're heading north to Roanoke or Richmond. So we're kind of like in that little hot spot of catching people as they're traveling to bigger cities.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, Abingdon with a D, right? Not a T. Okay. Sorry. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
it's all good.
But I just think that this idea of sustainable business is really, I think it's really ideal. I mean, this is really my cup of tea. Like if I were to do a business again, I think I would really grasp onto this as opposed to like I mean what everyone else what I feel like a lot of people are doing. Like, this works for so and so, so I'm going to do that. But just like, I think the 80/20 rule is really, really smart. And I think, and taking Emily's advice to experiment. And I think, just trying new things and seeing what works and just really listening to what's happening. I think these are really smart ideas. And I don't know who came up with that and who's going to, I don't know, like who's going to be offended by you having different ideas, but it seems like what you guys are doing is really working and it's really fulfilling for you. I really wish I could have been at that 90s night. That sounds
Well,
like so
yeah,
much fun.
yeah, it's definitely a blast. Probably April is when we're going to look to do that again. I don't know what the theme will be, but it'll probably be like 80s, 90s, something like that. But yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, there might be things that have worked well for us that will only work for us.
Right,
And that's one of the things when we got started, all we knew was that we wanted to open a bookstore in the town we're living in.
right,
And we thought about it for a while, and it was funny. And this, I don't know how much time we have left, but this is a very quick one. Is the space that we're in now was a tea shop. So she had like all these little different types of tea and things to like make tea and little teapots and all the fixings. And I remember I had just gotten my job in the tourism office, and when I seen this spot for the first time, I remember I texted my wife and I'm like, "Hey, if this spot ever becomes available, that's going to be the perfect spot for the bookstore. Like
oh,
inside of a coffee shop and this little nook, that's a perfect place for us to start and incubate our business." And then it wasn't, but gosh, just a few months later, within the next like 90 days,
a
my
finer point.
boss and I were in this coffee shop, and the owner of the coffee shop was talking to my boss, and I thought I overheard her say, the tea shop's going to be going out in like 2 months. And so, like, I kind of walk over to the owner and I'm like, did I hear you say the tea shop's closing? And she was like, yeah, why? And I was like, I know the perfect business that could go in there and who could own that business. And I was so scared at first because she said, oh, there's somebody that works here that was talking about putting a bookshop in there too, thinking that would be a great idea. And I'm like, oh no, well, they're definitely going to get first preference
That they've got
over all this space, but they decided not to do it. But then there was also another business that was considering going in there. But luckily, the coffee shop decided to go with us instead of the other business because they thought that we would accent their product better. And so it just worked out. And it was kind of like we manifested it by saying someday we're going to be in that space. And then way quicker than we anticipated. Like we technically were not ready, but we made it happen.
Yeah.
And like if you and I'll send you like a before photo so you can
Yeah.
see what the shop looked like the day that we took it over and we were like patching holes and painting the walls, but also what our shop looked like this shelf over this way,
Mhm.
this was two little tiny bookcases that had hardly, or wait, on this side,
Okay.
was just two little bookcases and a little tiny record player that didn't even work. So there was hardly any books in this shop, but we were so proud of it. We thought we were the coolest, most stocked bookstore ever. And then now, and then behind me, even there's like more bookcases.
Yeah.
So it's just grown so much. And when you see those transformation photos, it's really cool.
Oh gosh, that must be so satisfying for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
To
really neat
put
to look
everything
back.
into it and have everyone just really embrace it. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, Chad, this is amazing. I really I'm so glad to have the chance to talk with you again. What does the word sustainability mean to you?
So many things. It depends on what context we're talking in, but I guess since we're talking about the bookstore, sustainability to us is just to be able to. We think a lot about the environment when we're thinking about these books because I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the amount of resources and environmental impacts that there are every year for creating new books is very substantial.
Mm.
So one of the reasons we do pursue used books is we look for that ability to be more, have a more sustainable environment in just little in our own community. Our community doesn't have recycling as an option either. So anytime we can think about reusing and repurposing, that's huge, huge. And I think our business is sustainable because no matter what the economy is like or what's going on in the world, we're affordable. And you could sustain a business on affordability. We've seen luxury businesses go out left and right
Yep.
because people can't afford that. But we're just trucking along like the little engine that could because, we fit that. And I think we can just keep doing it because of those reasons.
Yeah. Well, and because you've built a pretty solid community, and so I'm sure that if you guys fell on hard times, they would probably, jump in and see how they could support because you've done so much for them.
Yeah, and that's an important thing because especially where we are in a tourist town, a lot of businesses that struggle or end up closing do so because they have high expectations that they're going to thrive and survive off the tourist. And then the locals are just like, they're here. But we built our business with the locals in mind first. And if the tourists come and like us, that's great. If they don't, oh well, because, and I don't want to say it that way because that sounds really mean,
Right.
but,
No, I
but,
understand.
but yeah, if you don't build based around the people that are right there in your community that are going to, because like in our town, wintertime is not tourism season. The tourists are not here.
Right.
So we have to rely on our community.
Yeah. And can I ask another question really quick?
Mhm.
Like this is not related to the sustainability question, but like do you have to be choosy when you're taking in used books?
We do. So we one of the things we pride ourselves on, and we also get in trouble with, is that we refer to ourselves as carefully curated. And the reason we do that is one, we know who our audience is. So we know what books work and what books will sit for a year. And we don't want books to sit, not because multiple reasons. One, we have very limited space, but two, we want those books to be out and be enjoyed by people. And if the people that enjoy those books aren't coming to us, then we tend to not use them. But one thing that we do is we will rotate the books out to other organizations. Like there's thrift stores in town that benefit the local food banks.
Mm-hmm.
So the money they make from that, they'll put into the food. So if we can't use the books, a lot of times we'll donate it to them. So
Yeah.
it helps all of us. So it's always ever moving around.
Ooh, I love that.
So yeah, so we got a couple little creative, crafty things like that to help with those different pieces. So yeah, it's like we know what works and we try to stick with that. So we are selective about what we take in a lot of times. And like right now, we've got like such a surplus of backstock that quite frankly, we just don't have the capacity for anything. But a few months down the road, we're probably going to be in a dire need. So
Right. Well, I mean, if you have 3,000 people come to your shop one day, you're going to be bought out.
Oh,
You're going to
yeah.
need to fill up with something.
Yeah, very
Uh,
true.
oh gosh, I just love that. Okay, so how can people find, I mean, I know we know where you are physically, but like,
Yeah.
can we like follow and see what's going on?
Yeah, so we have social media. We primarily use Facebook and Instagram. That's where our audience is. So we are just at the Bookseller VA because there is another bookseller in Georgia and somewhere else in the country, but they're not affiliated with us. So also, the booksellerva.com is our website. We try to keep it up to date with our events, but you can read more about our stories. You can learn more about my wife and I, why we started the business. And I think the numbers are actually on there of the environmental impacts and kind of more of why we do what we do.
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah.
if you want to learn more about like the sustainability, the green effort that we put forth, all that is on our website.
Awesome. And how about your YouTube channel?
So my YouTube channel is called Chad Every Day. You'll see like a picture of me with a yellow background, and yeah, you'll either love it or not.
Yeah, let's get Chad some views on YouTube, you guys.
I appreciate that. Make it making the dream come true.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. This has
Yep.
been fantastic. This is really just so fun to get to see this and and hear more of your story. I love it.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have come on here. It's always fun to talk about things that, bring yourself joy. It's good.
Totally. Awesome. Well, so Chad Thompson, you guys, check them out. Check out the bookseller, and that's Cellar, CELLARVA, and Chad every day on YouTube.
I just want to take a second to thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I love having these conversations with folks. I also want to thank Buzzsprout for hosting the podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her music genius, for Becca Coffron and her award-winning artwork. And thank you for listening. I appreciate that so much. Please check out the show notes for any links and extra information. And if you would like to follow my guest and find out more about them, I'm sure they would love the follow. And if you don't mind leaving a rating or review wherever you're listening, and just help to get this podcast in front of new eyes, that would be amazing. I would really love that. And feel free to reach out to me on the socials and let me know what you're thinking. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please let me know that. I would love to have a conversation with you about sustainability. All right. Thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, how do I get there from here? 'Cause here and now I'm so far down that mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. We'll find a way to soothe the sickness. We'll heal the ache with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here and now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. state of grace has finally found me. Well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder